Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot, I put that on everything.
Hey, Craig.
When social distance is right, in my living room at night, when the bars are closed and we're stuck at home, I'm drinking with myself, drinking with myself, drinking with myself. Well, there's nothing to do and there's booze to consume, I'm a drinking with myself.
Yeah, you apparently traveled all over the greater Tacoma area tonight, picking up booze that you can drink by yourself.
Yep, as long as you can still get it to go, we gotta support those local breweries and all that.
Yeah, it's that's kind of where we're at right now. I did my part, went on Monday, and we were trying to help out a friend who was actually in quarantine, so because they were waiting for a COVID-19 test result, so we were like, yeah, let's go get some beer for him and drop it off, and then I of course had to make sure to support him in my own little way. So yeah, had to do that.
Very cool. Well, this is Podcast versus Everyone. I'm Craig Powers. With me, as always, is Jeff Newser. And
hi.
Tonight we have a special guest, which we'll get into in a second.
Man, we are doing it big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we just hop into it?
We probably.
I don't know about all that. Let's relax now.
Come on.
Wait, should we give it just like and see how many? Nah, because we're gonna tell them. I was gonna say we should have them guess who the voice is, but we're gonna tell them anyway. So, Craig, why don't you tell them?
And now, 6 foot-ish from Columbia University, John Andrzejek.
Oh, wow. I mean, this is the most amazing and undeserved announcement introduction I've ever received, so I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Right, for those of you who don't know, John Andrzejek is an assistant basketball coach for WSU, what we call the director of analytics, John? Is that
sure. Sounds
cool.
good.
Sure, among a lot of other things.
Among other things, because there's only so many coaches you can have. So
yeah, there's only 3, and John's one of them. That's a big dang deal right there.
You gotta, I don't know about that, but you gotta wear a lot of hats. So that's part of the deal.
That's true. Like you guys don't get like 14 assistants and 18 analysts like the football team does, right?
I've thought of that actually a lot more than I probably should, and it would be great. I mean, I'm all for it. Let's have 10 coaches, and we can all work in our little silos and have more specialized positions. But the way it is now, you got to do a little bit of all of it. You got to do the analytics, coach on the floor. You got to recruit. Help out the kids academically. You're wearing a lot of hats.
Well, I see you doing, a lot of coaching in game too. It's funny. Like, I don't know how many times this year I've been watching a game and they cut to a bench shot, trying to show Kyle, and then you're standing up, barking out orders, and it cracks me up because it's like, they're like, oh yeah, Kyle Smith's done a hell of a job, and it's like you're up there barking out. It's pretty hilarious.
A lot of times it's not as complex as it looks. I'm saying, hey, you got number 22. He goes right and he shoots threes. You got 7. You got 10. Keep him in front. Like it's not rocket science.
Yeah, it's you're not trying to overcomplicate it, right? You're no, just remember these two. If you can remember these 2 things, then we'll be okay, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
All right. Well, Craig, do you want to ask the first question? You want me to ask the first question? I don't know. We should have worked this out beforehand, but given the crap level of our show, this is pretty on brand.
Well, John, I in my song, which you were lucky enough to be here to listen to, obviously we're talking about how we're all stuck at home right now. What's that been like for you guys? Obviously you're on a 30-day no recruiting period, but what have you guys been doing? What's it like in Pullman? How have you kind of coped with it, or I guess, and how did the team kind of cope with the sudden end of the season.
Well, I'm on the podcast tonight, so I'm not going to pretend those aren't related. We got some free time on our hands right now.
You sent me this text message out of the blue, and you're like, "Hey, this week's probably a good week if you want to have me on the show."
No question.
I'm like, okay.
Now we're relaxing. It's a lot of downtime right now, and just kind of hoping this thing passes with everybody remaining safe and sound. You know, it's been a very rapidly evolving situation, you know, where we went to sleep kind of expecting to play Arizona State for a chance to get to the Pac-12 semis, and we woke up at 10 a.m. the next morning, and the season was over. So it's all been going fast, and as far as our guys, I think most of our American kids have gone home, and they're with their families now, which is great. You know, all classes have now moved online at WSU, so technically until they give us the all clear to do workouts, the kids don't really need to be here, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Now our international guys, I think it's a little bit harder on because right now there's a travel ban from Europe to here. So for Vova and for Jazz, it's not really feasible for them to go back home because they may not be able to get back here.
Right.
Know? So
is it like how as a coaching staff, how do you try and support them through that, especially if other teammates and presumably the vast majority of their classmates have gone home?
You just try to keep in touch with them and just be there for whatever they need. I mean, I saw Jazz today. He came by the office. You know, we made sure we stayed 6 feet away from each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but he was here, and I saw Gervais as well, so he's running around. And you just try to touch base with a few guys. I mean, I think we all the assistants, Coach Smith, we all have guys we talk to a little more closely, or we recruited, or whatever. So you just try to stay in touch with those guys specifically and make sure they're doing all right.
Now, imagine you guys, you mentioned you went to bed thinking you were going to go play Arizona State, and again woke up the next morning and the season was over. Now, we kind of have a running gag around calling ourselves the national champions. Are you guys aware that you are actually the national champions because you won the last completed game of the season?
Oh, it's not a running gag. We are the national champions. I mean, this is a no-brainer, no doubt.
Are we printing the shirts? Are we hanging a banner? I mean, how are we going about it? Are you guys using this in recruiting materials? I kind of want to know the full extent to which you guys are embracing this.
All I know is when we hang the banner, we better have our best opponent next year because we play well in those games every time.
So, yeah,
right.
you definitely did. You definitely
No
did.
doubt.
That Colorado game, was so cool to watch. And I'm really curious, you guys played really well for about half the game down in Boulder and then kind of petered out. And I'm really curious, in this game, I'm always kind of wondering how much adjustment takes place between, that first game and that second game. Was the game plan pretty similar, and you just felt like you needed to execute it a little better? Or did you come up with something different, or what were you able to do, in this time against Colorado that you weren't maybe able to pull all the way through the first time?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say whenever something doesn't quite work out, and the first time it worked for a while, and then it obviously we faded at the end of the game in Boulder. We look at one of three things. Is this something where we just got to do it better? Is this something where we got to do something else, or is this something where we got to do it with somebody else? And I think when we watched the film of the first game, and Coach Phelps had the scout and did a really nice job, and we really felt that this was an area where we could just do it better, where we could try to chase their guards off the three and kind of funnel them in toward the rim. And make them miss down there, and now part of why I think that worked a little better this time around is, Vova made a little bit of a jump, and he helped us down the stretch the last few games of the year, especially on the defensive end, and kind of being able to guard Beatty and make him miss around the rim and make their guards shoot floaters and knock it all the way for layups. So, I would say for sure it was mostly in the column of doing it better and kind of guarding things the same way. But we definitely felt we needed to play bigger at the 5 consistently.
And hitting half your threes helps too, right?
No doubt. I mean, CJ was the best player on the court, and when you have the best player on the court in the game, you got a great chance of winning.
Talk a little bit about CJ. I'm curious from a coaching perspective, and I know that you're probably I don't know what limited in what you would say is the way to say it, but just he's your player. So obviously a lot of talk about him exploring the NBA as he did last year. I presume that assuming everything is kind of normal-ish going forward, at some point that he'll explore that. He'll explore that again. But from your perspective, and again, this being the first year that you worked with CJ, what'd you kind of notice about him? What makes him special? And then what does he need to do, in your opinion, to kind of take that next step to being really consistent game in, game out? Because he definitely had some games where he sort of had a real tough time, either getting his shot off or making it with consistency. So what's that next thing that you see from a coaching perspective that he needs to take to truly have that impact every single game?
Yeah, well, I'd start with CJ's a really good basketball player. He's maybe the best guy I've ever coached, and he's a guy that's definitely going to play in the NBA at some point. So. Selfishly, we're hopeful that we can get him back for another year, and see if we can make a run in the Pac-12. But he's a good player. I mean, every single game he is the number one guy on the opponent's scouting report, and he's the guy they're trying to take away his shot. I think if you looked over, and I did it a few times during the game, I looked down the Colorado bench when he made some threes and they're upset about it, because it's something that, any coaching staff is emphasizing to take his shot away, So overall, just a lot of praise for him, because I think he is a really good competitor. He's been coachable with us, and we've tried to push him in a couple areas, and he's done a good job there, leading his teammates and kind of staying the course, because we've had some good stretches where we were winning a bunch of games in a row, and then you have some stretches where you don't quite come out on top, and he's stayed with it and been good to us. I think for him, to keep evolving. I mean, he's a young kid, so he's going to get bigger and stronger and faster, and his shot's just going to keep getting better. Being able to drive both directions, finish at the rim, just sort of not settle. He's got this great ability to get a shot off whenever he wants. But the more he's at his best when he's banging threes and then driving those closeouts, getting the rim, drawing fouls. So, that would really be the one thing, but I for sure think he'll be able to do that.
His sophomore season reminds me so much of Clay's sophomore season, and I'm gonna kind of make an assumption that you didn't follow Klay Thompson's sophomore season out here too closely, but it was sort of it was kind of a little bit of a joke with us where Klay made first team All Pac-12 as a sophomore, or All Pac-10, I guess it was Pac-10 at the time, as a sophomore, and he had a real just sort of up and down season. He had some games where he just totally disappeared, but he was a lot like CJ, where he was really the primary offensive threat for the team, and didn't have a ton of help around him, and so really the weight of the scoring load was really on his shoulders, and that was coming from, that was his first year with Ken Bone, freshman year with Tony Bennett. Really was, I mean, he had a nice scoring season for a freshman, but of course wasn't really asked to do a ton with Aaron Baines and Taylor Rochester on the team and what have you, and so he seemed to struggle just a little bit taking on that primary role and really the increased attention that the defense put on him. And it seemed like I saw that with CJ to some degree. And when Klay stuck around for that junior year, the thing I really, that I really noticed where he took a big leap is that he worked really, really, really hard. And you see this when he's in the NBA too, but he works really, really hard to get himself into positions where he can score before he ever catches the ball. Getting himself into a spot where he can catch and shoot, getting himself into a spot where he can catch and put the ball on the floor and go to the rim right away. I noticed with CJ, it seems like sometimes he catches and then he's not really sure what the next move is. Is that kind of an accurate assessment? And is that something that you would say, yeah, like he needs to work on a little bit, this idea of, getting himself into spots where he could do damage maybe right away or set up a defender to do damage rather than maybe, a jab step and then kind of trying to figure it out?
I don't know. I think he's pretty heavily scrutinized because he's our 20 a game scorer.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
That would be my main answer on that. I mean, there's some stuff too that I would say as a coaching staff, we'd like to put him in some positions next year that, more play to his strengths and help him, have more space to drive, especially left, and be able to finish or get open shots for other guys. So I don't have a lot of bones to pick with him for sure.
Yeah, and looking at the rest of the roster, that's a tongue tie. But you guys obviously had to remake the roster this year with quite a few different players. We saw, players that weren't even around last year became integral parts. Like Bonton is obviously a key one there. How did you go about kind of picking out those players and decide? You had such a small window to make that happen. What were you guys looking for, and how did you put them together?
Yeah, I mean, last April, May, June was pretty crazy. No question about it. It's really
right.
challenging because there was a lot of job turnover with different people getting head coaching jobs. And so because of that, the recruiting was really, really fierce, and a lot of the kids had a number of offers, and I think we did a good job kind of cobbling it together. We got the main thing that was most important to us is we got some good players to return, and CJ and Jeff and Gervais, Marv, Jazz, and then we just filled it out wherever we could. Noah decommitted from Buffalo, and he obviously helped us immensely this year. And then, Vova had some other Power 5. He had one other Power 5 official visit that he was going to go on, and he jumped in and kept Duran around from the old staff. Isaac was a nice get from Coach Shaw. And then, unfortunately, Shed and Dion both got hurt.
Right.
So it really was a mix of everything. It was Seattle, it was international, it was junior college. We looked at transfers too. So it's just the nature of the beast when you get a job late like that. How did
you have to kind of alter your expectations and the roles of the players as those? So obviously Shed and Dion were going to be kind of top 6 rotation players. It looked like at the start of the season. Like, how did you have to adjust what guys were going to do? It seemed, like Isaac had to handle the ball a lot more than he might have expected, and then obviously Tony Miller had to step up. So how did you guys kind of got hit by injuries over and over again? What was it like, kind of trying to figure out how to keep going?
Yeah, that was the most frustrating part of the year. Is there was a lot of change in the lineups and who we were playing, and it kind of made it difficult to really settle into a pattern and build a rapport with substitution patterns, with how guys played together, and specifically on the front court. That's something that we study a lot with the plus-minus data is, figuring out who our best combinations are at the 5 and the 4. And it felt like we were never quite at full capacity up front, So that, a good example of that is down the stretch, those last Arizona State, Colorado, those 3 games. We played a ton of minutes with Tony at the 4 and Vova at the 5.
Right.
And in the first 20 games of the year, I don't think those two players were on the court at the same time.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
that tells you the amount of up and down there was with availability of guys.
Well, yeah, and it seemed at times you had Tony playing the 5, a 6'6" guy at the 5, and it seemed like Tony, either Tony or CJ, but at least in your 4s and 5s, like, was the most athletic player. And how does that happen coming from a guy that was at a Division II school, and then it seems like a hell of a gem you guys uncovered there, because particularly in the last half of the season, he just showed that he was looking to dunk on people as much as he could, and then really was having to defend players that were 4 inches and 50 pounds heavier than him.
Well, he has a ton of heart. That's the main thing I'd say about Tony is he goes really hard, and he has tremendous pride in his abilities and in being a Coug, and he just kept getting better. He wore on us a little bit in the preseason. We thought, hey, this is a really good get. We lucked out here, and even we didn't know just quite how good and impactful he would be.
How did that come about? Like, how does he end up, connecting with you guys from Montana?
Well, he's a Seattle kid, so that was a big part of it. Is he's a Pacific Northwest guy, so he was familiar with it, and I think when we got here, what we were selling was opportunity. This is a place where you can jump in and try to hone your craft and see if you can do it at the very highest level in the country. And for him, that was a challenge he was really excited about.
Yeah, it's good. It was fascinating to watch. I can probably speak for Jeff in here too. He wasn't really on our radar as a guy that was going to be in the rotation, and then when you guys,
I will fully confess to the fact that I wrote more than once. Yeah, he's had a nice non-conference season, but I just don't think he's going to have much of an impact once Pac-12 season starts, because I just don't think he's big enough, or he's undersized for, I just thought, and I looked like a big idiot actually, because he definitely proved me wrong. And it's like so cool to see, because you guys have you brought in all these guys from not just all over the country, but all over the planet, and it's it's like you guys just turned over every rock you could think of to try and cobble this together. And one of the things that amazes me is that you number one, you did it on such a short time frame, right? I mean, I remember, visiting Pullman, a year ago when you and I met in the office and interviewing Kyle, and him just, I could hear him working the phones while I was waiting for my interview, and it just, the way that you guys, like I said, I think just scoured is really incredible. So maybe take our listeners through the process of, okay, you've just been hired, and you've got a roster that eventually ends up, I think, holding over what like 4 guys, right, or something. 3 or 4 guys is all. And so you've got this roster that anytime there's a coaching change, the roster turns over. You're trying to fill spots, you're trying to add guys, and you're not just trying to hand out scholarships to guys who are gonna not do you a whole lot of good. How do you even go about crafting the roster, adding talent in that kind of a situation?
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, when you first get here, I think the most important thing for Coach was, we really needed guys that wanted to be here, and we're proud of this place. So before we looked outside, we wanted to look inside, and it was really important to us to get Jeff back. His teammates respected him a lot. He was highly regarded on campus, and that's sort of where it began, is with those. It ended up ultimately being 5 guys, I think, that returned: CJ, Jeff, Gervais, Marv, and Jazz. And then after that, you're finding guys from anywhere. So it's a mixture of people you trust in your recruiting network from over the years, reaching out and saying, hey, I got this guy. It might be kids we recruited at other spots. Like DJ Rodman was a kid that I was trying to get at Dartmouth, actually. And he had held out, wanted to go to a higher level and see what he could do. And, he was kind of chomping at the bit when we got here. So it was really a mixture of guys from all over. It was a lot of nights watching Synergy film and trying to figure out if we could find some diamonds in the rough, for sure.
How do you go about evaluating guys? And a lot gets made of, the nerd ball stuff and the analytics, and I think we're going to dive deeper into the analytics here in a minute, but like from a recruiting perspective, how much does that play a role? What, you mentioned Synergy, and I think probably a lot of our listeners probably don't know what Synergy is, so maybe explain that a little bit. Just kind of like how you take all these different pieces, the eye test, the analytics, like how do you bring all this together to try and make a decision on who are guys who are going to fit for you?
Yeah, it's tricky because with different types of kids, you can have more information than others, right? So transfers, you actually have a ton of information, right? Because you can go on KenPom, especially if they're D1 guys, and you can see what they numbered at last year. You can see if they were efficient or inefficient against, quad A or high major type opponents. So in a lot of ways, like transfers are a lot easier to predict how they're gonna translate over when they bump up a level, or whatever it may be. Now freshmen, true freshmen, there's not the same analytics to it. You might have some AAU data that you can use that'll help, but really you're going a lot more on old school. Eye test, watching the guy play. How well does he move? Can he dribble, pass, and shoot? Things like that. So Synergy helps more with transfers or guys that played shoe company AU, because Synergy is this huge repository of film of all these guys. And so what you can do is you can go on there, find their team, select their name, and you can watch like their last 100 used possessions, right? So I'll go on there and I'll watch every time they shot the ball, make or miss, every time they turned it over, got an assist, and usually over the course of that's probably 20 minutes. You can get a pretty good sense for what kind of player the guy is.
That's fascinating. I had never considered that. Obviously, when we get news of you guys having someone as a target or signing someone, we're hunting for, whatever video, and if it's a JC guy, usually you have to go back to their high school years and all that. So that's a great resource. You had mentioned DJ earlier, and he kind of, well, one, I'm sure Todd Schulenberger is glad that you brought him on, for sure.
No question. No question.
But I think DJ is like a perfect example of kind of the culture you guys brought in, at least on the court, because he when he's in, he's usually playing like a four, the four or something, and just like Tony playing against bigger kids, but he fights, and everyone always wants to compare him to his dad, but like it's sometimes it's easy because he just is so scrappy, and I think of he blocked I think it was Batty's shot, but they called it foul, but it didn't look like it, and you could tell he was just so mad about it. but he just obviously he played here and there, but it was still just the type of player that kind of exemplified this culture. So how did you bring together this like group of kids over a couple months span, and then build this culture that seemed pretty evident like early in the season?
Well, as far as the guys coming together, I mean, I think most of that credit goes to our captains, CJ and Jeff. I think when you have some of your best players and your leaders do things the right way and go to class and be on time and share the ball and do their job, it makes it a lot easier for guys like DJ and some of the others to just say, hey, this is what we do here. This is the Coug way, So a lot of it was sort of trickling down that way, and it happened slowly but surely. I mean, those first few practices in April, at some points we were down to 4 guys. So the spring workouts were, a lot of getting shots up and 4-on-0 penetration shots, stuff like that. And slowly but surely, the rest of the team kind of trickled in, But it's a long process. It takes a number of weeks, number of months. I mean, we weren't. I wouldn't say our team was even fully formed when we played down in the Caymans. We were still sort of getting the kinks out and figuring out what our roles were and who we were.
Well, and that's when Dion went down, right? So, like I'm amazed that you go from, and I know that you're not going to speak to, the previous coaching staff, so I'll go ahead and do that for you. But, take a team that, pretty clearly didn't have, and not that, chemistry is sort of a quantifiable thing or whatever, and we joke about, chemistry, but a team that didn't seem like very much of a team in the past, to this year where you've got a group of guys who faced so many challenges and so many obstacles, and from injuries. Craig mentioned the injuries, just to everything else, and it's like this. You get from there to here where you face all these injuries, and guys just keep stepping up, and freshmen just keep developing. I mean, we've already talked about Bova, we've talked about DJ Rodman. I mean, heck, even Ryan Rapp, had a nice stretch there before
helped us
kind
win
of
the
had
UCLA
an
game.
injury. Yeah, so it's like guys just keep stepping up, and then I mean, our fans are just swooning over these videos of you guys singing "We're from Pullman," and it's like I just maybe the answer is simple as Kyle, right? Because I mean, I interviewed him, I've devoured everything I can find on the guy. I mean, maybe the answer is just that simple. That that's just him as a coach, and that's his personality, and you just teams take on the personality of their coach. But maybe I don't know. Like, is there anything behind the scenes that we don't see that leads to this camaraderie, this all for one sort of mentality, and this ability for the team to just continually step up in the face of adversity?
Yeah, it's funny. Coach Smith is everything he talks about or puts out in the media or you read it. It's really who he is, like all the way through. So he talks all the time to the guys, whether it's when we're first recruiting them, or at the beginning of the season, or even after we go on a little bit of a skid, lose a couple games in a row. He'll talk about he wants guys that have great attitudes, great work ethics, and are really, really proud to be here and to be Cougs. And that permeates everything he does with the program. And it's funny because a lot of my friends in coaching will tease me. They'll text me, are you guys still singing Kumbaya? What are you guys doing over there? And it's really just having that mindset of like having the right approach to every day and coming in trying to get better and not making mountains out of molehills. Just get as good as you can each day and do your job on the court.
Are you as big a fan of Modelo as Coach Smith?
No comment. No comment.
No comment. Okay.
Yeah. I heard we're sponsored by a different company, so we can't be endorsing anybody.
I know we're kind of nerdy about our beer around here, and we're like, oh man, we got to help Coach. We got to help Coach. We got to help Coach.
You're welcome.
Man.
I'm sure he'll take a donation. So, okay.
Well, let's. You are the director of analytics, after all, and Jeff and I are pretty nerdy.
Super nerdy.
Yeah.
I feel like this is what we've been waiting for.
This is what we've been waiting for.
This
Hey,
is
But you know what we so we kind of talked about this. We were like, okay, so people are going to want to hear stuff about the team and about like all this like stuff. We're like, eventually we'll get into like the nerdy stuff, and then I don't know, maybe everybody will turn off the podcast, but we kind of don't care because this is what we want to talk about. So
all right,
yeah, we're excited for this.
Let's do a quick break and then we'll get into the nerdy stuff.
Okay. All right, we're back.
All right.
Nerd time.
Obviously, we got to tell you, man, when you were hired and they were floating the director of analytics position, Jeff and I just, like, were so excited. We were like 14-year-old girls at a Backstreet Boys concert. It was...
So true. Dude, okay, so when I met you at the, in the office, while I was trying to wait for my interview, I was like, I texted while I was waiting. I texted Craig, they have a director of analytics. You're not going to believe this. Anyway, 14-year-old girl at Backstreet Boys concert.
There you go. I think Justin Bieber's more topical now.
Probably, but I'm old, so I'm like 43 now. So that's my frame of reference. New Kids on the Block.
Thanks for keeping us relevant, man.
Yeah, I appreciate
that's what
that.
I'm here for, I guess.
But yeah, like obviously when it came in, the story in the Athletic about Nerdball when Coach Smith was at USF, and then even Pat Chun mentioned it when he was when in the introductory press conference. But how does that shape what you do? Like when we talk about Nerdball, we don't really like the data rate. Term,
this is like a culture war within the Coug fan base.
Yeah, we're bigger
so
fans. Bigger fans of Nerdball here.
We definitely like Nerdball better.
That's fine. I'm all in on Nerdball. At least until I go on the other podcast, and then I'm flattered, I guess. So. No, just kidding.
But yeah, so let's talk about obviously when I think the average fan thinks of analytics. They think of stuff like Ken Palm and to the nerdier ones like Hoop Math and all that. And so what does analytics mean for you guys? Like obviously we've heard about some of the stuff in practice, but how does it go beyond the Ken Palm stuff?
Yeah, I'd say at the most basic level, we try to use data to impact as many decisions as we can in the program. So whether that's recruiting or scouting or player development or how we're allocating money in the budget, we want to be as informed as possible. And there's a lot of different ways to be informed. That might be using synergy to get film of guys that maybe other people don't know that film is out there. That might be using the Ken Palm information to identify guys that are sort of lower usage secondary options and make them maybe be more aggressive on offense. And that's
right.
Was a big part of how we tried to defend like Oregon and Arizona State. But it kind of runs the gamut, but at the baseline, it's just trying to be a little more informed about, any decisions we can.
Do you have like I guess I'm thinking like a specific example of a way that analytics, impact the sort of maybe the decision-making process or the scouting process or something like that maybe a fan, would help them understand the way that you guys kind of approach, the use of data?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, there's a few things. I think when I'm beginning a scouting report, one of the first things I do is I look at the other team's Ken Palm page, and usually the scout is primarily about defense and how do you guard the other team. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I'll do is I'll look at their 4 factors and figure out what they're good at and what they're not good at, and try to see what we can try to take away or make hard on them. So it starts at sort of a team level, And then after that, I'll go on that little page that says game plan for the team.
Right.
And
yes, we are well familiar.
I'll look at those correlations down at the bottom, right? So, for some of the teams, guarding them is all about just making their shots as bad as possible, making them miss. But for other teams, it's not that simple, and it becomes a lot more about getting it off the board, when they miss a shot. So I try to figure that out. Is this a team where it's just about lowering their effective field goal, not giving them layups, not giving them open threes? Or is there another component to this, which is that, like, they're great in transition, so we got to make it a half-court game? Or it's really about blocking out, getting off the board? So that's where it starts on the team level. And then individually, the first thing you're looking for is guys that don't shoot, right? Because if they play multiple guys on the floor that don't shoot threes at a good enough clip, we're going to help off those guys. And there's a lot of different ways to do it, whether it's, like the strong side help in basketball is like a cardinal sin that you're never supposed to do, right? So if I'm driving right at the top of the key and you're defending the guy in the right corner, in modern day basketball, you are not supposed to suck in off that corner, right? Mm-hmm. It's too easy of a pass. It's too easy of a shot for a good shooter. But sometimes in scouts, if you got a guy that's shooting in the low 20s or doesn't shoot any threes, all of a sudden that becomes a good play. So a lot of what we're trying to do is teach guys general rules of how to play defense, and then have a robust enough system that you can make these little adjustments where you help off some guys, where you shift the defense over against a guy that really wants to isolate from the wing or attack from the top, something like that. So it's, we have our basic principles, and then we try to use the information about our opponents to figure out what we need to take away and what we should try to give them, because you can't take it all away.
I'm also curious, like, how much you guys maybe self-scout a little bit based on those, those Ken Palm stats. And I'm thinking specifically, something I noticed, maybe about midway through the Pac-12 season is, okay, so you had this defense that was really, based on turnovers. And I actually have a question about that in a minute, but really based on, forcing turnovers. But there was also a point where, the highest correlation for you guys on that page outside of shooting was actually free throw rate and defensive free throw rate. And so I'm curious, like, if you guys kind of look at that also to maybe self-scout and see, what you're doing versus what you're trying to accomplish and how those things are working together.
Yeah, we definitely try to, and I think when you pointed out the defensive free throw rate, I think that's really goes hand in hand with the pressure that we were putting on, especially at the beginning of the season. Because one of the best ways to attack, defensive pressure and guys being denied is just to drive the ball. So take advantage of the fact that everybody's locked up and there are therefore bigger driving lanes. And so when you play that type of D, you got to constantly be looking at how many times they're going to the line, because that's usually a good measure of how much they're getting downhill, driving into the paint, getting paint touches, which defensively you try to take away as much as you can. So there definitely were some games this year where we had to be a little bit more in the gaps, a little bit less locked up on the perimeter in order to keep the ball in front a little more.
Yeah, and I know I love to hear this. The writing, I typically write the game previews, and just it's nice to hear that that you look at some of the same things I do. I know that's kind of self-serving, but I know that was kind of part of the reason Jeff and I got excited. We're like, hey, we're going to have a coaching staff that is thinking the way that we like and whatever. But I was curious about you're talking about these scouting from team to team, even scouting individuals, who maybe have low usage or don't shoot particularly well. You can try to force them into situations that are uncomfortable for them. How hard is it to keep that database for the players in their head? Is there reminders like, hey, you're guarding 22. Remember what we said? Like, you can leave him in the corner. Like, do you just have to remind them in game, or is there a lot of, obviously with basketball, there's not always a ton of turnaround in between the games. How do you keep them on that game plan that you're looking at?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard for sure. Now, it was harder in the Ivy League because in the Ivy League you played Friday and Saturday nights, so you really had a huge change in game plan from night to night, and it was tricky. But going Thursday to Saturday is not easy either. So what we try to do is just kind of repeat the main things that we're trying to accomplish in the scout, and in this league a lot of that is best player defense. Most of the teams that we play in league have a guy that's on NBA draft boards, maybe a lottery pick, or a terrific college player that's close to 20 a game. So a lot of it is limiting those guys, but they do it in different ways. A Kongwu hurts you in a very different way than Peyton Pritchard does. Right. Now what we have at our disposal to help us out is something called Huddle. So we can make edits of our opponents, showing their strengths, showing their weaknesses, and we can upload that into the cloud, and it'll actually send an email to all of our players where they can access that film on their phones. So we like that because it's pretty non-invasive. They can watch it, sitting at home, in their bed at 1 a.m. or whenever they're awake. If they go to the bathroom, maybe they flip it on for 5 minutes. It's a little less top down than do it in front of the team 4 times.
Right. That's interesting. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think a lot of times people think of like analytics and film as kind of opposing forces. That are like fighting each other, where you have the film buff guys versus the number data cruncher guys, and it's cool to hear that even in your role and how the team works, it's a combination. Both I like how you can express that to Cougar fans. Like, it isn't just numbers. The players are looking at film too. It's a combination of everything. You're just using whatever is at your disposal, I'm assuming, is what you're thinking.
Yeah, and we're big believers in if those two can't marry together, then you got something wrong, right? So if all your data says, hey, you can go under ball screens on this guy, he doesn't take pull-ups, but then you watch the film and he's making those shots, well, this might not be a good strategy. Something's wrong with how the data was collected or whatever it may be. So we're really looking for where those two marry together, and then that's where we'll put our chips in, so to speak. If the film says this will work and the numbers say this will work, then we're going to try that for sure.
One thing I'm really curious about, I know that people who are data minded, analytic minded, they're always kind of maybe thinking about the next thing, whatever it is. It's that maybe, if I only had my hands on this, right? This would really change the way that I can do what I do and make this better. What's a thing that maybe is not at your fingertips yet, that you're like, maybe this is coming, or something like that, where when this happens, this maybe will transform it? Or if I had, my dream scenario, this is the data I would love to have that would really change the way that I think about coaching, game planning, player development, whatever.
Yeah, so at the NBA level, they have something called second spectrum. Are you guys familiar with that at all?
I am, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so that second spectrum is really fascinating. They have these cameras up above the stadium that track all 10 players on the court, the ball, all the referees, and they build these diagrams that sort of show all the dots moving around, the dots being the people in the ball. and then they've built these algorithms that can calculate what's actually going on. So it's informed by coaches, and it says, all right, this is a strong ball screen, this is a step up, this is rub, and then it shows also what is the defensive tactic to defend that action, right? So the defense is showing on the ball screen, they're in ice, they're playing drop coverage, and then they veered late. Now, and so the beauty of the second spectrum stuff is you can find out how well these sort of things are working, right? So you can see, okay, when we're in drop coverage, we defend like a top 20 team in the country. But when we're in blitz coverage, we're not a good defensive team, right? So very quickly, just by pushing a button, watching some film, because it's married to film too, I can see, all right, we should probably blitz a lot less, or what it also has too is based on the location of all the players on the court and, the way the ball handler was dribbling when he took a shot or how close the nearest defender was. It can actually calculate how likely that shot was to go in the basket, right? So in a lot of ways, it can take a lot of the onus off the coaches for sort of good shot, bad shot selection, because you can just go to the kids and say, hey, I'm not doing this, the computer says that's a 32% shot. It's not me, So that's a lot of the way that they coach shot selection at the NBA level is they go through and they fire up the second spectrum and they say, all right, let's watch our 10 lowest expected points shot attempts from last game.
Is that a thing that's potentially coming to the college level, or is that a capital investment that's maybe not there coming anytime soon to college?
Both. It's doable right now in college, but quite expensive.
So if we have any millionaires listening,
we want WSU to be a powerhouse.
Yeah. Well, first they're going to donate directly to Jeff, Craig, and me. That's the most important thing, right?
We'll make sure the money goes where it needs.
Yeah. We'll take 100%. Care of that. But no, that would be something that I think would help us. Now the other side of the coin is that the technology is not. It wasn't made for college. It was made for the NBA, and it's sort of slow in taking hold in college. So I think there's maybe. I don't want to quote wrong, but there's maybe 6 or 8 teams in college that are doing it right now. And
now, are those teams? So sorry to interrupt. Are those teams that are schools that play in like NBA arenas? Is that kind of the deal?
They're just teams with a ton of money. They're Duke, they're Kentucky, they're
Indiana.
I think Arizona might have it. I'm not sure. But so it's in college a little bit. But it would be really, really good and awesome data if it was all throughout college or all throughout the leagues. I mean, if the Pac-12 had a deal where every school had it and we all just mutually shared data from each game, that could be really, really helpful. But right now, if you got it installed, you'd be paying the $50,000 for it, and you still wouldn't have any data from any of the road games.
How much of a difference, so just having 15 games worth of data, or I guess it would be more than that because most of your non-conference games are at home, but, maybe 18, 20 games of data, how much of a difference would that make for you guys?
I think it would help for sure. I mean, a lot of these things are, how much they help you is just a function of how much time you put into it, but it's hard. I mean, there's our most precious quantity for sure is time, especially during the season, because you're trying to manage the team, you're trying to scout for the next opponents, and you still have a recruiting class to fill, So anything like Second Spectrum that can eat up a lot of that, the time that you would otherwise spend, clipping every single time you blitz the ball screen or every time you played it and drop, because that's the way otherwise you would figure out the answer to those questions, right? You would just, by brute force, you'd clip up every single time you guarded something that way and you'd see if it worked or not, or you just do it, the old school way, and you kind of use your intuition and say, all right, this is working, or no, we probably need to change course. So, I think a technology like that would just help us be able to quickly, mold the team and make some better decisions.
Great. So again, send us the check. We'll make sure to make it happen.
Sounds good.
Sorry.
Mr. Millionaire with me.
There'll be a little finder's fee in the middle, but
yeah, exactly.
Just a small one.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Be sure to edit that part out, Jeff. You didn't say that. So, using what you have now, obviously, is one thing that the broadcasts, the broadcasts for Pac-12, ESPN, FS1, that they love to latch onto was how you guys did kind of the pregame warm-ups and how you were looking at film during the warm-ups, and obviously a very unique thing. And so, the pregame walkthroughs and stuff. And is that something that Smith has done for a while? Is that something you picked up along the way? And what do you gain from doing those kind of start and stop and watching film so close to game time?
Yeah. So it was actually something we started back at Columbia a long time ago. And the genesis of it is kind of funny because whenever you have a scout, you always want to show more film. That's just the nature of the beast, right? Like you want to be prepared for every situation, so you want to show them the counter that they have to every play. You want to show them, all right, when the game's tied with 10 seconds, this is the play that they're going to run, and so on and so forth. You're always trying to squeeze more into the scout, right? But the problem with that is if you do it the old school way and you kind of watch all the film, then you go on the court and walk through some things. I mean, you're sitting there and watching film for 30 minutes, 25 minutes, and the kids just can't do it. I mean, I can't do it. I'm a coach. This is what I'm there to do, and by the time I'm getting to minute 6 or minute 8 in a row, I'm zoning out a little bit.
Right.
So that's sort of what we figured out is these things are best digested if they're in small dosages. So that's why we try to maybe watch 3 plays on the film, then we go onto the court, we walk through those 3 plays, then we come back and yada yada, do that a few times.
One thing that I'm curious about, and so I'm kind of springing this question on you. I didn't give you a chance to prepare, so I'm going to talk for a second so to give you a chance to think. But I want a really good Kyle Smith story, and the reason why I asked that is because he seems like a guy who does things or says things that would make really good stories from time to time. I mean, when I interviewed him, a year ago in his office, right after he got hired, just like, I mean, he talked to me like he'd known me forever, which obviously he did not. But, he just seems like a really funny guy, a really good dude. And just, I even just think of, I saw a video of him after a game. It was pretty late in the season, but, it might have even been after the Colorado game. I can't even remember. But, I think it was after the UW game. Todd Schulenberger's outside the locker room, and Nick Rolovich out of the locker room. And, and here's Kyle out there saying to Rolovich, like, oh, man, I'm just a basketball coach. All I do is I hold up 1 fist or 2 fists, and that's all I got to do. You got to actually call plays. And I just hold up a fist. Obviously, there's a lot more magic to what he does than that. But so maybe just, I don't know, like, what's a funny story about him? And then just like what makes him such a special coach, a guy who's had success everywhere he's been.
So I'm sure I'll come up with a few more, better stories as soon as the podcast ends. I mean, I think that's how this goes. But
usually that's how it goes.
Yeah, the only one that came to mind is we were at Columbia and we were playing in the CIT, and we were in the championship game and we were playing UC Irvine, and at the time UC Irvine had this 7'6" guy, Mamadou Ndiaye,
yep,
who was
remember him.
Yes,
really,
we remember
really
him.
college player, and when we were in shoot around, he must have planned it out ahead of time or whatever. but we were going through their personnel and, introducing their point guard and their two guard and all that stuff. And then we get to their center, and he jumps on the back of one of our other coaches. So he's way up in the air, and he's like, "This is how tall Andrzejek is." He blocks every shot. You can't score on him at the rim. You got to shoot threes. So it was amazing. The kids will love it. So no, he's a great coach. I think he really, really understands culture and getting the right people on the bus and getting everybody moving in the same direction. And he's unbelievably good at having a long view of the room. So
Mm-hmm.
where some of us sort of, like I'll admit, when we lose, I'm crushed. Like it's tough for me. I take it hard, and he's able to, just see it as progress along the way. And I think that comes from how much experience he has at different stops and turning programs at San Diego as an assistant, at St. Mary's as an assistant, at Air Force. He was there for 1 year before they had the Mile High Miracle, and won the Mountain West at Air Force, and then our stops at Columbia and San Francisco. So he's able to kind of collect ourselves, and when we go to Utah and we feel like, hey, we're ready to roll, we can get this game, and we just don't play well, and we don't get that done. He's able to grab control of the room and say, hey, we're all right. We're getting better. It's a step along the way, and we'll be fine. And that's where I think he's really, really gifted.
And by the way, I want to point out that game against Irvine, you guys won, and Mamadou Ndiaye had 0 blocks. So,
There you go. I guess
you scored 27 damn points in the last 10 minutes to win that game.
Oh yeah, it was an explosion. It was a really wild game. They played a ton of 2-3 zone actually, like UW. So
yeah,
that's pretty fun.
Well, it was pretty fun when you beat UW twice this year as well. So
it was not bad, I'll tell you that.
we got to talk about that for a sec. Listen, if you want to know the way to, there's 2 things that'll get you into Cougar fans' hearts, right? Like, there's 2 things. Number 1, beat UW. That's obviously number 1. But number 2 is, have a team that plays their asses off and just fights and scraps and does everything. And I know we kind of talked about this earlier in the show, but it really is amazing how far you can get with our fan base. Really, just doing kind of those 2 things. Obviously, beating your rival is a big deal, but I think a lot of people really kind of fell in love with you guys this year in this idea that a team that just. I think Cougar fans fancy themselves as a fan base that punches above their weight just in general.
Yeah. Yep.
And so to have a team that seemed to do that a little bit, I think is a thing that really resonated with our fans. And I really want to talk, or give you a chance anyway. You talked a little bit about Jeff Pollard. It was such a bummer to see the season end this way for him. He was so just, dude put it all out on the line so many different times this year to just play. He goes to Pullman Memorial and gets a whatever, a head scan or whatever to make sure he's okay, and then he comes back and goes back into the game. The dude was such a warrior. What was his, maybe expand a little bit on what his influence was on the team this year and what you guys were able to accomplish.
He got engaged in Beasley Gym.
Right.
That you can't be more all in than that. I'm a basketball lifer. I would say I love this thing about as much as anybody, and I'm not sure I'll get engaged in the gym or go down on a knee in the gym. So he cared about this team, man, so much, and it was really, really important to him. He left it all on the line, and I think he's pretty comfortable with – I think he's really happy with his decision to come back and comfortable with the way the year played out because he left nothing to chance. He did everything he could, and we're so happy we had him because beyond, low post moves and some of the D down there, and doing a great job on Stewart both games. Beyond all that stuff he did on the court, he was just a really good leader, and he was a guy that bought in and believed in us. Even before we had gotten a chance to give the guys any reason to believe in us. So that's his blind loyalty, his faith, were really, really special.
Do you guys ever joke about some of his just old school post moves and the wristbands and the dude is like straight out of like the mid '80s, right?
He was definitely the team dad. There's no way around it. I mean,
that's fantastic.
If I had to go talk to somebody and get a little counseling, I think I would go to Jeff. I mean, he's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I haven't seen so many baby hooks in a long time.
Yeah. You're an analytics guy. I mean, like, that's a shot. I mean, pretty much all the shots that Jeff Pollard takes, other than the threes that he took this year, pretty much all the shots that he takes are like sort of the don't take these anymore kind of shots. And yet he was, really efficient for a guy who took so many of those shots they're generally frowned upon these days. And I think that was just like, I don't know, like for me, as kind of a numbers nerd, I don't know, like I just sort of smiled at that and really appreciated the fact that he was doing it in this way that is really a throwback, and he was able to do it pretty efficiently.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he works on his craft. He's good at those things. He works a lot with Coach Phelps down there. They go through their 6 pivots, which are all the different moves around the rim. Kind of taught by Bill Cartwright actually at San Francisco. He kind of helped us out there. So Jeff works hard at it, gotten good at it. But the other, defending my realm here, analytics. I mean, there's a big difference in post efficiency at the NBA level versus the college level.
Okay.
And a lot of that.
Expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. So you can be average in the post, or even it can be very good offense for you in the post at the college level in a way that almost unanimously, with the exception of Shaq and a few others, it just is not good offense in the NBA. And that seems to be for a number of reasons. One being that the lane is a lot thinner in college, right? So that when you catch the ball in college, you can just catch it a lot closer to the rim. And if you can get within a couple feet of the rim, it's a good shot, period. Even if it's heavily contested and you're fouled or whatever, if you're shooting a 18-inch shot, that's going to be over a 50% shot, And then the other piece is at the NBA level, if you're a great low post player, they're going to double you every single time. That's just a part of the deal at the NBA level. And at the college level, it's not. It hasn't become as mainstream. You know what I mean? Stanford, Virginia, Tony Bennett. I mean, they double the post every time.
Yeah, we got real familiar with Tony Bennett double teams.
The big
10
double,
years ago.
the cross key double. Not the
big
double down
double.
from the guard. Yeah.
Yeah, but for a lot of other teams, it's one-on-one in the post, and you get to dribble 2 or 3 times and see how close you can get to the rim, and then try to drop it in.
I definitely saw you say 6 pivots. I think I seen Jeff use all 6 pivots on a post move before.
He might have invented 7 and 8.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so. Obviously, Jeff was a big part, and I think it was pretty obvious when he was out. But those last 2 games of the season, then you guys bounced back, got to 500 with that last game. Obviously, I know you tweeted that you were pretty bummed, felt like you could make a run. Even objectively, Jeff and I thought you had teams you had beaten already were out there in front of you. It was a pretty good. About as good for an 11 seed in a tournament, about as good as a stretch as you could get. But given that it didn't get to happen, and you didn't get to make that magical run that we all knew you were going to do, how do you feel about the season? How do they match kind of with your goals, and obviously we look at things like you guys jumped 80 spots on KenPom, and your defensive efficiency jumped into like number 83 from 284 or whatever it was. How do you feel about how you guys did this year?
Oh, good. I think we for sure met our expectations for the season, and coaching staff wise, now we don't share this stuff as much with our players, but we for sure look at the KenPom rank, no question. So jumping 80 slots is a win. That's great for year one, and if we can jump another 80 slots, then we'll be in the dance next year. But that'll be the biggest thing for us is let's just keep chipping away. So we're at 127 now. Let's get that thing to 70 next year or whatever it may be. And as long as you keep moving it forward, then there's really, really bright days ahead.
So I know every time I'd wait, and after you guys' game, it would take, on KenPom, it takes about an hour or so at this point. I mean, it used to be you had to wait till the next day. But
oh, my God. That was the worst.
But how when you get a tough loss, you watch that rating slip. And then when you get a big win, you're like, come on, go up. Do you watch that? Do you feel you're like, damn it, like we were there and now we're back down, and
for sure.
Or why didn't we get more spots? Like we need to be jumping more. We just beat number 8 Oregon. Where's that jump? Like
no doubt.
Do you feel that yourself?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'd probably refresh it. I'll be in the coach's locker room after the game, and I'll be refreshing KenPom.
That's awesome. He's just like us, Greg.
I will say this, though. When we were at Columbia and you're playing more of a gamut of, Yale's ranked 58th in the country, and then you play somebody else and they're ranked 310.
Yeah.
Those rises and falls at KenPom rank can be really significant.
Oh, yeah.
You can drop 20 slots in one game, or go up 15 slots. Whereas I would say at this level where everybody's pretty good, the falls aren't quite as precipitous.
Yeah, that's something you notice. I think we would kind of hold our breath after certain losses and be like, and they're it's not so bad. Yeah, it's especially when you're kind of in that middle range. This stuff kind of the teams are pretty closely bunched and not that much changes. But well, I think we've taken enough of your time, John. I really appreciate that you came on and especially this last half an hour or whatever. That was definitely my favorite part. I don't know about you, Jeff.
There you go.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
But yeah, I really appreciate it because I think you've been on with us for well over an hour. I know you're bored and you didn't have anything to do, but
I'm having a great time. Yeah,
we appreciate that you thought of us.
Just trying to stay away from the Rona.
as we all are.
Yeah, no doubt. So
it cannot be transmitted through podcasts as much as far as I know.
There you go.
That is correct.
There you go. Hopefully we can give some good content to all our fans. I mean, we're extremely, extremely appreciative to everybody that comes out and sends us emails and letters and cheers us on. It's awesome to be a Coug.
Well, hopefully next year every day is like Clay Day, and we can just have those great atmospheres over and over again.
Yeah, we just got to put up our national championship banner.
That's right. You let me know. You let us know when that game is, and Craig and I will drive over the mountain pass. And
sounds good.
We'll pull the
banner. We'll celebrate our
national
national championship.
All right, I appreciate it, fellas. Thank you for having me on.
All right, thank you, John.
All right, that's it.
Bye.
Dude, that was so awesome.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun for Jeff and I. I don't know. I hope it was as much fun for you guys. I hope you could tell that we were nerding out pretty hard. John's a great guy.
So nerdy.
Really appreciate him coming on. Hopefully we can have him on many more times. Really smart guy. One thing we didn't know is that he graduated from Columbia in 2.5 years.
Yeah,
he's smarter than the rest of us. So.
I had a question teed up about that, and then I like I couldn't figure out a place to wedge it in. I was gonna be like, "Hey, John, Like, how smart are you actually? Because Kyle Smith likes to brag about the fact that you graduated from Columbia in like 2 years, and then I just like I couldn't figure out a place to wedge it in.
I wanted to ask him about the philosophy degree as well.
Yeah, like who gets a philosophy degree?
We'll have to. Well, who gets a history degree and who gets an English degree?
Hey, wait a second.
A comm degree.
Wait a second. Yeah, I was gonna say I do not have a fucking English degree. I just want to point that out as an English.
Well, I
teacher.
do have a history degree, so
I have a communications degree.
I guess
Thank you
communications qualifies as the liberal arts. I don't know.
Yes, it does. It definitely does.
It's so liberal. But yeah, that was a blast. We may have talked to him for another hour after this. That may have been an hour break that we just
rumors may circulate as to how long we talked after we stopped recording, but
I do enjoy that he, while we were talking after we stopped recording, he still made the point to say off the record and stuff like that. It's like,
yeah, he's like off the record, and we're like, dude, we are not recording anymore. This is completely off the record. It was awesome. It was fantastic. Oh my, we are such nerds, Craig.
Oh, man, the best was that thing he told us about Clay.
Yeah, that thing about Clay that we can't tell you all about.
Oh, man, I'm sorry,
totally
guys.
off the record, though.
He didn't say that, but we'll keep it off the record.
It's fantastic.
All right, I don't know. I need a cigarette, but
I kind of feel that way too. I feel like we just had a very intimate moment. And
he's gonna listen to this part. He's like, "What? I'm never coming back there again."
He's like, "I'm never coming back on your show. This is fucking weird." Anyway,
no, I think we went full 14-year-old teenage girl after we turned the podcast.
I hope
off.
it did. Yeah, I mean, I hope it didn't come through that much on the recording that we were just sort of like, "Oh my god." But definitely after the recording, it was all the questions that it's kind of funny that we're saying this because nobody will have heard the answers. But I'll just say it was all the questions that we didn't get to that we were sort of curious about, and John was wonderfully patient and very
well. We probably could have gotten to them. We had just felt we had already taken too much of his time, and he just let us take even more of his time.
I'm like, hey, you've been on here for like an hour. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. And then, of course, we talked for another 45 minutes or whatever it was. It was a long time.
Well, I know I went on mute to have to go pee at one point. I'm pretty sure you went on mute.
I also went on mute. I told you to please stop talking or please continue talking because I got to go pee.
I waited for him. I asked him a question, and then I went straight for put it on mute. So
it's because we've been drinking, Craig.
He was drinking. What are
you drinking, Craig?
Well, are we doing me first?
Sure.
No, do you first.
Okay, do me first.
We always do you first. Okay,
That's
so I
true.
know what you're drinking, but did you finish it by now?
I got about an ounce left. Is about all that's left. All right, so I went to so during these trying times of COVID-19, earlier this week I went to my local tap room, Rainier Growlers, and I actually have a friend who, this is no joke. Hey Brady, he's in quarantine. Because his family's being tested.
Brady, I've met Brady here.
Yes,
yeah.
And family being tested, and so we decided that we were gonna try and make his life just a little bit better. And so I went to Rainier Growlers and picked up a couple of cans of beer and put one on his doorstep along with some other items. And anyway, so while I was there, I picked up a 32-ounce can of Bitsier and Bobsier, which is, of course, those of you who are craft beer fans will know is the Reuben's Brews, their annual IPA that I want to say they started last year, but I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, a couple
years ago.
Yeah.
Just doing bits and bobs, and it's kind of their experimental IPA. And so this is their Bitsier and Bobsier, which is the double IPA version of their experimental, sort of like goofy bits and bobs. And so 9% at 32 ounces is got me feeling pretty good right now, Craig.
Yeah.
So how about you?
Well, I was trying to do my part to support the local breweries today, but I don't have, not one of the beers I'm drinking, but I did while a couple of Narrows Brewing and E9 Brewing were just doing to go, and I figured I'd try to support them while they're still open, because I think by about Friday that's not even going to be an option. But so I took a nice bike ride and did all that and supported them. So that was nice. It was like I plotted out nice 14-mile bike ride, stopped at Narrows, put a 4-pack in my bag, drove to E9, 2 more 4-packs, climbing hills on the way back to get those 4-packs home. But I felt pretty good. But what I'm actually drinking is Hair of the Dog, which Jeff has had on before. But Hair of the Dog is a brewery in Portland. It's kind of an OG craft brewery, famous for making all sorts of kind of like heavy malty ales, barley wine type ales. This particular one is called Matt Commemorative Ale. What it is a barrel-aged barley wine, basically a bourbon barrel-aged barley wine. I'll read the label. It's Matt Vandenberg and Matt Bonney personify the spirit and dedication that has helped craft beer become the vibrant industry it is today, and such. So this Hair of the Dog Matt is named after Matt Bonney, and it has Matt Bonney is a kind of a Seattle beer legend. Every Hair of the Dog has a dog on the label. This particular one has like a mohawk. Matt was a real punk rock type of guy. He passed away about a year ago, about almost a year ago exactly. And so this year, I don't know if it was always called Commemorative Ale. This year's release, 2019 release, was called Commemorative Ale. But the reason I'm drinking it this week is because, well, of course, it's near the 1-year anniversary of Matt's death, which I drank another beer, if our readers might remember, in honor of him, a BottleWorks beer, a BottleWorks anniversary beer, because he was one of the guys that started BottleWorks. And Browers, and then he also founded Tornado in Seattle. Tornado's a beer bar that started in San Francisco, but he founded one in Seattle. But actually, related to, there might be other things going on, but related to the coronavirus outbreak, Tornado unfortunately closed for good this week suddenly. Yeah, and it's pretty sad. Obviously, it was pretty sad last year to lose Matt from the Seattle beer scene, and then to lose his one of his babies, Tornado, this week. So that's, when we're saying we're going in supporting these breweries while we can, it's because there's all these businesses. It could be a brewery, it could be a restaurant, it could be anything. I don't know about you, Jeff, but I just have this fear of like all these places that I love.
Oh yeah,
won't be around on the other side, and I hope that they will be. And I know when I bought a couple 4-packs from E9, the guy there that was ringing me up, he was just like, thank you, every little thing helps right now, and I know it's tough to even venture out and when we're telling social distance, but at E9 at least it was nice. It was like tap to pay, and he's wearing gloves and everything's sterilized, and we didn't even touch each other. We stayed about 6 feet away from each other the whole time. But
yeah,
I was like, so it was nice to be able to go and support local breweries. And then of course I wanted to have this beer. It's a delicious beer, barrel-aged barley wine. Excellent Hair of the Dog, Jeff. I got quite a few more if you ever want to try it. But
well, I do have a beer for you, so maybe I need to bring it over, and we need to practice some social distancing while we share a little bit. I do have that Yellow Belly for you.
Yes. We'll have to talk about that one.
Yeah, we will.
One of us will have to open that one up on the podcast.
I'm not as patient as you, so I'll probably just.
I figured that's what happened.
Yeah,
I will love
what'll
to talk
happen.
about that beer on the podcast.
I'm not like, here, I'll put this on the shelf for 2 years and then drink it in 2 years. I suck at that. So, but yeah, we'll have to do that. We'll have to. Well, that's what we should do. Like, God, there's just gonna be so much goddamn time on our hands. It's just like
we have to stay in our houses.
Oh my God, so much time in my house, and I'm just. Anyway, maybe in a couple weeks we'll get together and we'll share some beers. I still have. I mean, maybe I'll bring that Bottle Logic beer that I've been holding on to for 2 years since I went to Anaheim.
I thought you drank that one.
I did not. It is still sitting.
The Braggot one?
Yes.
Because we drank the Dark Star November.
Yes. So we drank that one because I believe I got that for you,
dude. If you do that, I got a couple other Bottle Logics to deploy.
We'll bring that over.
Have a Bottle Logic podcast and
That's
just
what we
be
should
completely
do.
drunk.
We'll
do it for a watch party. We'll do an everyone in 60 just completely hammered off of Imperial Stout.
Oh, that's perfect. We'll have to pick. I don't know. Like, so I'm kind of like torn on this. Like, so when we do everyone in 60, do we do like a good game, or do we do like, let's take out the Bottle Logic and then let's watch the UCLA game?
No,
and just get completely shit faced and just like watch that train wreck happen right in front of us.
Jeff, we want people to listen to the podcast.
Don't you think it'd be funny, though? Don't you think people
No one will listen to the podcast.
No one will listen to you and I get totally trashed while like
no one will want to relive that in
unfold.
any way.
All right. Well, if you say
no,
so.
we'll just like
I
do
trust
more,
your judgment.
I think it'd be something better for like the Crapple Cup or something.
Yeah, maybe. That'd be a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, just get totally wasted and watch like the worst, best game ever, and just go with that. That'd be great. Oh.
Well, I'm sure that our only everyone in 60 we've done.
Yeah. Right. We had this plan to do like a whole bunch of them, and then we did.
But then there was other stuff to talk about. But
actually, we did two, but we sat down, did them both on the same day. So
no, we just did one.
Did we just do the one?
Yeah, just a game day.
I swear to God, we watched 2 games while we were over your house. No, we just watched the one.
We just watched one game day.
Oh, all right. Well, sorry.
We had plans for more, but I think
we had big plans.
I think the day was
Stanford was next. That was the next one.
Yeah. We'll do that.
Yeah.
We'll just relive the 2018 season with everyone.
Let's just forget 2019 ever happened.
2018 was beautiful. 2018
was awesome.
In large part thanks to a mustachioed man named Gardner Minshew.
Yeah. I feel bad about that because I love Anthony Gordon so damn much.
I know, but right now all we got football-wise is that we know that Gardner Minshew is officially the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Or owner. Is that right?
Yeah, like he's the presumed starter heading into next year. How awesome is that? No, that was a question, awesome. Craig. How awesome is that?
Sorry, I was taking a drink of beer. It was pretty fucking awesome. It was. It's. I mean, they got like he went in there. Nick Foles got like $60 million guaranteed, $100 million contract. We all know the only thing that matters is guaranteed money,
right?
And basically came in as a 6th round draft pick. And made Jacksonville say, well, fuck those $60 million. We'll trade this guy away for, what was it, not much? 5th round draft picks?
Yeah. No, they're basically, look, I mean, Jacksonville was happy for anyone to take his salary.
And who else but the Chicago Bears?
And the Chicago Bears. Well, I mean, let's be honest. Would you rather have Nick Foles or Mitchell Trubisky?
Well, definitely would rather have Nick Foles, but
I mean, that's a pretty easy choice right there.
Pretty desperate, though.
But seriously,
a lot of failed quarterbacks out there. In
Gardner Minshew, 6th round quarterback.
Anybody,
including Chicago, could have had him.
I know that Chicago's got to be thinking, we'll take Foles. Fuck, why didn't we draft Gardner Minshew?
God, just amazing.
But it's pretty wild, obviously they're hasn't been that sort of hype around a WSU quarterback for a long time, and I don't know. It's fun because it's Gardner Minshew, so it's extra fun because he is a phenomenon beyond his playing ability.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's the NFL season feels so long away right now, but
yeah, it does. As Tom Brady is moving to Tampa Bay, and
I mean,
all
who's the best quarterback in Florida now?
That's a question, Craig.
Who's Miami's quarterback? It's not Ryan Tannehill. He is the Tennessee Titans quarterback.
So they traded for Josh Rosen, and he flamed out. Then Ryan Fitzpatrick was their quarterback for the rest of the year. And I presume
no one actually stays with Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Well, yeah, my assumption is that Ryan Fitzpatrick is not their long-term solution at quarterback. So they're like, aren't they the ones projected to draft Tua Vailoga? Yeah, Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, are they?
Dude, I'm so deep into Bitsier and Bobsier. God damn it!
What is it? NFL draft order.
Yes,
I'm sure that will happen.
I think they're drafting Tua, right? Isn't that the deal? They're gonna draft Tua.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gardner's better than Tua.
Fuck yeah, he is. He's stronger. He's got better quads. He's got better quads for sure.
Tua will fall to 5th then.
I think that's the thought. I don't know. What am I, some kind of draft expert?
That Justin Herbert is going to be drafted inexplicably high. That's all I know.
So, like, a lot of what I've seen with him is that people are expecting to be drafted, like, middle of the first round. And I'm like, yeah, I'll believe that when I see it. Like, people are going to freak out. Somebody's going to freak out and be like, dude is 6'5" and 240 pounds, and he's fast, and he's just sort of all of these things, and someone's going to fall in love with him. It's going to happen. And I don't wish him any ill will. Like, I'm sure he's a very, I'm sure he's a very pleasant young man who, is deserving of all the nice things that people have said about him. But I would not want him to be the quarterback in my franchise.
Certainly not.
Nope. But good for Gardner. It's awesome,
Good for Gardner.
We love
Earn that
guy.
shit.
Hell yeah.
He's got that kook spirit.
Yes, he does.
I do love his Twitter is like #Duval and #GoCoogs. That's what his Twitter profile is.
It's it. Is there any more perfect of a place for him to land, though? Because I'll be honest, like, Jacksonville has to be like the Pullman of the NFL, right?
Oh, for sure.
Like just any way you want to slice it or dice it, like, that's what it is.
Yeah,
it's the smallest city in the NFL, right?
No, not even close.
What's the smallest city in the NFL?
Green Bay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yes, but the greater Milwaukee area, which is also the Green Bay Packers area, is much larger than Jacksonville.
Jacksonville's pretty big, man.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's just that people in Florida don't give a fuck about sports.
I guess that's what I'm thinking.
Population in Jacksonville is 892,000.
Okay, but what's the greater Milwaukee area?
The greater Milwaukee.
It's got to be 1 million plus, right?
Okay, but we're talking
there's
about
only
just
one
the population
NFL.
of the city of Jacksonville.
There's one NFL team in Wisconsin.
So the greater population of Jacksonville, 1.5 million.
Okay. And how many how many NFL teams are there in Florida?
3.
Right. Okay. Wisconsin's got 1. It's Green Bay. So the entire state of Wisconsin.
Do you know how close Milwaukee is to Chicago?
Well, no, because my geography sucks.
Like a 90-minute drive.
Fine, but are they Bears fans or are they Packers fans?
So the urban area of Milwaukee is 1.3 million.
Okay. So 1.3 million Packers fans versus What'd you say for Jacksonville?
1.5.
1.5 million. I don't know. Plus, you got all that like historical, like institutional history of.
Look, Jeff, what you said was
they won
wrong.
2 damn Super Bowls. Blake Bortles never won no damn Super Bowl. Neither did Mark Brunell. Yeah, you laughed at that.
Now I want to know
what
is the smallest,
that was a good pull right
What
there.
is the smallest NFL market? What do you think?
Smallest?
Other than Green Bay, it's obviously Green Bay.
If you're just talking like straight like the city itself.
Okay, Green Bay is the smallest media market in the NFL. That is a fact.
Just in the city itself. Next smallest, probably
they say
Buffalo?
the smallest media market.
Buffalo? Am I close?
I'm trying to look for a team, like for a list. Oh, here we go. Reddit's got me. Reddit's got me.
Okay,
well,
Reddit.
Someone's screaming. I mean, it's obviously Green Bay. Like people say it all the time.
Buffalo.
The biggest one is the New York Giants and Jets.
Okay, great.
The smallest one. No.
It's not Buffalo.
The smallest population in TV households. Buffalo is low. They are 26th.
Okay, I was close.
I'll give you a hint. This one was a lot bigger pre 2005.
I don't know.
New Orleans.
Oh.
And then Tennessee, and then
I would not
surprisingly,
have guessed that.
New Orleans is very small now.
A
lot of people moved away.
Like I would not have.
I'm actually surprised. Tennessee Titans are 29th. San Diego 28th. San Diego itself is a very large city, but a lot of the market is absorbed by LA, so they don't really.
I guess that makes sense. But San Diego is no longer an NFL city, Craig.
This is an old article, goddammit.
Old Wikipedia article. Or Reddit.
Well, no wonder they moved to LA.
God damn it.
So actually, the Chiefs, Bills, Colts, then Jacksonville.
Yeah, that all sounds
Green
right.
Bay is bigger than Jacksonville, so you got that. There you go.
See, I know what I'm talking about.
Now, Green Bay in population in TV households. Good job.
See?
You did it.
I know what I'm talking about. Anyway, Gardner Minshew, great for him. That's fantastic. He's going to be the starter. I wish him every bit of success down there. And I think it's going to be cool, like watching him be, really the number one guy right out of the gate. Like, he hasn't been that in his career. Like even when he was in college, like he was not
even at WSU.
When he went to his junior college, he had to win the job. When he went to East Carolina, he had to win the job. When he was at WSU, he had to win the job. I don't know that he's been the guy since he was in high school. Like, that's legitimately, I'm not sure. I mean, even when he was his junior year at East Carolina, when he was sort of the presumed starter, there was still this, sort of dude looking over his shoulder who he ended up yielding the job to. I don't know that he's been the guy. And so for him, this is fantastic. I hope he has the most amazing year. I will be rooting so hard for him. So hard for him.
Yeah, I've been thinking like those Jaguars jerseys are a lot better than I used to think they were.
Yeah, I wore my Minshew Mania shirt from BreakingT.com yesterday.
They use that 90s teal pretty well.
And that's hard to do, considering how much I hate the Mariners teal.
Yep. So, once, the 90s we just have to hold on to and cherish.
Yep.
But I guess we can kind of pivot. We love Gardner Minshew, obviously.
Yes, we do.
Gardner Minshew probably loves Mike Leach. I'm sure he does.
I assume so.
Not every player that played for Mike Leach loves Mike Leach.
Nope.
Including one of his highest drafted player at WSU.
Yep.
Andre Dillard. Had some interesting things to say to the Woodinville something.
That's what's so amazing about it.
There's a newspaper in Woodinville.
Yeah, there's like a Woodinville weekly something that Andre Dillard felt compelled to open up to. It's fantastic.
Right, known the reporter since he was in grade school.
Maybe. Guy who covered him when he was in high school. Something like that. It's incredible.
But yeah, basically, I don't know. He didn't say anything that we didn't already kind of like either know through inference or know, through just reporting. Like, like Mike Leach is a kind of a dick. Like, yep.
Go figure.
Yeah, weird. Mike
Leach is not warm and cuddly.
Yeah, so I mean, we knew that Mike Leach was kind of a hard. We would talk about how, despite people would label Leach as like a soft coach because of the offense he had, but he definitely was a hard ass coach, and he is still a hard ass coach, obviously. But for
anybody who's ever been around a Mike Leach team for like 5 minutes would know that he is like soft is like the last adjective you would use to describe him or his teams or like literally anything around the program.
Well, and he's obviously a player's coach, and then he was also not necessarily a hands-on head coach outside of the quarterback position.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, that's 100% true.
If you're not a quarterback, you're not getting, because he was the quarterback's coach, the offensive coordinator, and the head coach.
Yep.
So he primarily, that's kind of an impossible amount of tasks. And so he's primarily the head coach and the quarterback's coach.
Right. And the offensive coordinator. So which is mostly game planning.
Yeah.
Kind of, basically directing the offense.
He wasn't like working with the individual players on the, maybe if you had just an offensive coordinator, they would be working with more of the players. Maybe we're working with the offensive lineman, whatever. But obviously he wasn't working directly with Andre Dillard.
Yeah. He would some. He definitely would some. Like a little bit here and there. So obviously my experience observing spring practice was, very limited, right? So it's a very limited, realm in terms of what I was observing. So what I saw was a guy who was very involved with the quarterbacks. Would jump in. He jumped in with the wide receiver drills to kind of give him some pointers and kind of correct him a little bit, but not like heavy duty coaching. Didn't see any of that with the offensive line, but I presume it was sort of similar with them as well. Like he would just sort of jump in and give him some pointers here and there. So like you were saying, you had this situation where the guy's the offensive coordinator and very heavily involved with the quarterbacks, jumps in here and there with some of the other guys. Really is not involved with the defense at all. And, so it's really to see how an offensive lineman like Dillard would come away thinking, hey, guys, he's just sort of like a dictator, right?
Right. Yeah. And you kind of, you've seen on Twitter, like certain guys agree. You've seen other guys be like, no. It's probably just comes down to like your personality as a player. We obviously saw some coded messaging around, and when Rolovich got hired, some of the players were like happy to have this type of guy, blah, blah, blah. He's obviously more of a player's coach. We've seen players coaches are successful. We've seen hard asses are successful. We've seen hard asses are unsuccessful. We've seen players coaches are unsuccessful. So it's not like one or the other works. Because even I think that Saban, like guys like Saban, get the hard ass moniker, but there's no way that guy recruits the way he does without being a bit of a player's coach.
Yeah.
and then we also just saw kind of one of the ultimate players coaches at Orgeron win a national title. So yeah, you can do both. I mean, obviously, we've seen with the Seahawks, like, and Pete Carroll won a Super Bowl and whatever. Like, so you can do both. Like, not one or the other is better, but obviously, from a player perspective, you may draw your own conclusions. And yeah, like I don't know, like Mike Leach is probably kind of a dick, and it may rub you the wrong way if you have interaction with him, and that's fine. A lot of coaches come off as dicks, but they still win football games and whatever. And obviously, like in Leach's system, Dillard did very well, and obviously a lot of that credit is to him. But still, like he thrived in it, and he is in the NFL, and we talk about it looks like he's going to be the presumptive starter at left tackle, I think, for the Eagles next year. So he's having some success as well. So yeah, it was interesting. It's fun to talk about, especially because Leach is gone now. So whatever.
I do think some of that, maybe even most of it, I don't know, but at least some of it is, Dillard playing under Doug Peterson for a year. The environment in the NFL is very different.
Right.
You're generally dealing with coaches who, well, the coaching style has to mesh with the players, right? And so you're dealing with players who have much more autonomy, who are much more mature. And so I imagine
make more money than you do.
Exactly. They make more money than you do in a lot of cases. So a lot of your leadership style as a coach, it just simply cannot be as top down as it is in the college game. Like that's just not possible when you're dealing with all the dynamics we just talked about. So I imagine that's part of what Dillard was dealing with, was a coach who had to take a little different strategy, a little different perspective on his players. Doug Peterson, and I think at least near as I can tell, Doug Peterson is much more of a quote unquote players coach, and so Dillard's been in that environment for a year, which sometimes as just as a human, you look at that, you're in a certain environment for a time. You look at the environment you were in previously, and you go, God, that previous thing was shit, And so it's like maybe when you're in it, and I mean, I don't know if you've ever had that experience as an employee, but I have, where it's like I moved on to a different job, and I look, the previous job,
absolutely.
I go, yeah, when I was in that job, I go, yeah, that was fine. And then you move to the new job and you go, oh my God, that was so dysfunctional. Like I didn't even realize how dysfunctional that was. I imagine, Dillard's maybe dealing with some of that where, he gets exposed to a new way of doing things. And after being in Leach's program for 5 years, I mean, he was in that for 5 years and, red shirt and all that good stuff. And so to go through that for 5 years, and then all of a sudden go to a different environment, which is a much more professional environment. And Andre Dillard strikes me as a guy who, maybe would thrive in that kind of professional environment where, he doesn't need to be coached maybe quite as hard as certain, maybe some other guys do. Put all those things together and he sits there and goes, glad that guy's moving on and glad that players get a new thing. And, I don't know, maybe I'll throw this out to you, but, I kind of think that, regardless of all the things that Dillard said, I do tend to think that maybe a new approach maybe isn't the worst thing in the world, given what we saw last season and just the reactions from some of the players, since Rolovich is hired, and also some of the players, Jahab Woods, most notably to what Dillard said.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before. I mean, it's kind of it's a little bit exciting for fans. It's scary, but it's exciting for fans to have like a new coach and a new approach and a different offense, which obviously is not 100% different, but it has different things. But but yeah, you saw the way the players reacted to him, and that's last year was a challenge, and it seemed like there was some dysfunction, and we kind of thought that 2018 would be that year, and it wasn't, and then 2019 turned out to be that year, where you saw kind of Leach's side of the ball was really as good as it has ever been at WSU, but the team was 6-7, so there was obviously a feeling like, well, if the thing that Leach does the best was as good as it can be, and we still finished with, we went to a bowl game but finished with a losing record, and only had 3 wins in conference play or whatever. And I'm probably more on like the Jahad Woods and Max Borghi side, where like this sounds fun and let's go do something new.
I think I am too.
And so it's funny, like I think anyone who's followed this closely just kind of chuckled at what Dillard said, like, yeah, of course. Like, This is not, like, none of this is weird.
Yeah, I mean, none of it was surprising.
We saw what happened in, like, Leach's first year, like, with like, Marcus Wilson, like, very public departure from the team. And, like, obviously, Mike Leach rubs people the wrong way. Newsflash, like, and so, and obviously we follow him on Twitter and whatever. But, so it's I see them deleted tweets, by the way, Mark. I see them all. I'm always up.
Is he deleting tweets?
Definitely.
Oh,
Don't worry.
His late night drunk tweets are the best. Is he deleting those?
Yeah, he deletes them. He deletes some of them.
Man, I'm so disappointed by that.
I know. They're way better now that he is somewhere else.
I know. Like, we can just enjoy them now. They're hilarious.
Yeah, they are hilarious. But yeah, I don't know. Good comments.
I mean, it's, whatever. Like, okay, some players think he's awesome. Some players think he's less awesome. And newsflash, not every player loves their coach. Right?
Right.
Like, that's pretty much the whole story.
And it's bigger news because Leach is just such a popular and famous coach. Yeah. Because I'm sure that no one was going to write a story about an old Paul Wolf player being like, well, I don't really like Paul Wolf that much. Like, because everyone would be like, okay, whatever. He lost a bunch of football games. That's normal. Whatever, but like, so it's more interesting because it's Leach, because he's an interesting character. Mm-hmm. But it's also not surprising. And yeah, bring on Rolo, bring on. I love what he's doing so far. It's fun, and I just hope that wins come with it too.
Yep, and I think it will. But of course, we all think that when a new coach gets hired. So
especially after 32 ounces of 9% beer.
Hell yeah. That's me. I resisted the urge to go to the fridge for another one. I'm just sticking with the Crowler.
I didn't add another beer while we were sitting here.
You just ran a half marathon too, so I'm sure that's like kind of whacking you kind of hard right now.
Well, that was like 3 days ago.
Well, I know, but I'm like, you're in really good. I guess I just mean like you're in really good shape. Like you're not like, as pudgy as I am. So
yeah,
beer's gonna get to you a little quicker than it is to a portly gentleman like me.
We probably weigh roughly the same. So.
Yeah, but you're also 6'6", so whatever.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like I still have some mass to. Combat.
That's true. Even when you're in good shape, you're better equipped to handle your alcohol than I am.
Yeah, because I did a half marathon, on Sunday, and then
why don't you brag about your time, man? How about that? You ran half. You ran a virtual half in under 2 hours.
Yeah, that was my
awesome.
goal. couple months ago when I decided I wanted to run a half. I wanted to do it under 2 hours. I'd never done that before. I was pretty bummed when it got canceled because I knew I was going to hit my goal just from my training. So I was a little worried when I was set out the virtual half, which basically means you're just running a run by yourself, like any other one. It's just longer than you normally do. I incorporated some of the route, but obviously I started from my house, so I didn't incorporate the exact route. But I definitely hit a ton of wind at one point in my face, which was followed by a hill. And so my pace was lower, but all the time I knew that like my pace was low enough, because really to do a 2 hour half, you have to do 907 pace. And, I was pretty much keeping at 840 most of the time. And so I was pretty proud of that. And, to do an 840 pace, under hour and 55 is what I wanted. While I was going, I'm like, okay, now I want to do under hour 55, but which I was able to do. And so I was pretty happy with myself. Now I'm just trying to get faster because I have some other races I want to be faster in, shorter paces and stuff, shorter lengths and stuff. But, yeah, I'm just trying to stay in shape because, that's supposed to be good for fighting off viruses, I guess. I don't know.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
Well, we talked about, all this other stuff is just window dressing.
It's going to be our longest episode ever.
Yeah. This was supposed to only be like 10 minutes, but we stretched that out.
Yeah. A little more than 20 minutes. A little more than 10 minutes. A little more than 20 minutes. A little more than 40 minutes.
I hope you listen to the Andrzejek post of this or part of this.
We should have like a prize for people who listen all the way to the end of this. What should we do? What should we do about that? Should we I don't know. I'm not sure what we do. We'll have to think of something. Because I'm like, if somebody listened all the way to the end of this and they send us an email at pod vs everyone. So pod versus everyone. Podcast. Sorry. Podcast versus everyone. Podcast vs everyone at gmail.com. If you send us an email that says, I listened all the way to the end and I don't know, some sort of like thought. What should we do for them? We should do something.
Give them a crisp high five from 6 feet away.
We could do that. Like little like social distancing high five.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do that. Tell them a joke. Tell them a podcast versus everyone joke.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got dad jokes for days.
Maybe we'll tell you that thing about Clay.
Maybe we'll tell them an off the record thing.
Yeah.
All right. Subscribe and whatever else, all that other crap.
Follow us on Twitter. Send us an email. The Craig Powers at Pod versus Everyone. Jeff is the Pod versus Everyone.
Mostly.
Don't hold anything that he says on there against me.
It's true. It's mostly me.
And by that he means entirely me. It is my daughter on the cover photo, though.
See, it's mostly me, but not all.
Because it was just too good of a picture.
It is a good picture.
Not to use.
It's an excellent picture.
I set up the Twitter account.
It's true.
So if there's a picture of my daughter and then a
true.
picture of me, and then Jeff runs it. That's how this dynamic works.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when your partner deletes his own Twitter account and then needs a Twitter account again.
Yeah.
Stupid Twitter.
Stupid Twitter.
Stupid Twitter.
Who needs 5,000 followers when you can have 400?
I know, right? That's what I needed.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Subscribe, rate us 5 stars.
Yep, we like that.
I know it sucks. No one likes to listen to podcasts sitting at home, but just do it, man.
Yeah, I know. Without people driving right now, it's like, what are we gonna do about that?
I don't know. We're just gonna keep on keeping on. Oh, listen to Also, because Preston has a cool series going on right now.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Maybe even you could end up on it someday.
Ooh, maybe. We're talking about one.
Preston's
We're talking
doing
about a big 1997 mega cast for all the olds.
Make sure you're listening to Preston's. His last one was he did one for himself about 2017 USC.
Yep.
And then he just had an interview with PJ Kendall, writes for us about 2018 game day. So,
PJ went to great lengths to be at that game. So
yeah,
definitely listen
and he
to
also
that.
hid it from us very well.
Yeah.
That he was doing that.
Yeah.
Do that. Listen to those. Those will be fun for you. You have nothing to do.
Yep.
Your life is boring.
Yep.
You can stay socially distanced while connecting with someone on a personal level. It's
Yep.
great. But anyway, we need to stop this podcast.
We should stop.
All right.
Go Cougs, Craig.
Go Cougs.